Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. My name is Davine and today I'm going to be creating my final video for my series on how to start homeschooling. This video is going to include 7 more tips on the very beginning of the actual homeschooling experience. So I hope you stick around for my 7 tips. If you're new to homeschooling and you haven't watched the series and you're interested in going and watching my series on how to start homeschooling from beginning to end, I will link the playlist for that series right here. And so you can just start at the beginning and go through the steps. This video is going to be one that helps you get started. Now that you have decided on your curriculum, maybe it's in the mail, you've done all the steps before this, and now you are ready to get started on your homeschooling journey. So these are going to be 7 tips to help you in the first few days or right leading up to beginning homeschooling. Let's get into it. So I'm going to be looking at my notes here. I wrote down some notes just so I remember everything that I want to share today. So first of all, once you've decided on your curriculum, it is a lot easier to decide on what supplies you're going to need for your homeschool. So depending on the type of curriculum you have, that will determine the type of supplies that you need. So I don't know if you have seen my planning video yet, and if you haven't, I will link it here. It is a spreadsheet I use to plan out my year, and if you're kind of like to see, get a visual on how I plan out my supplies, you can take a look at that video there. And I would say the planning series is probably the next series you want to watch. So I'll link that at the end of this video to let you know that maybe that's the next series you would like to be watching if you're trying to figure everything out. So based on the type of things that you want to do in your homeschool, that's going to determine your supplies. So if you are going to be purchasing a lot of PDF downloads, you're probably going to want a pretty good printer. I have an Epson inkjet printer and I did a lot of unit studies my first year, and that was great because I went almost the whole year, printed off tons of things for my 4 kids, and we pretty much needed 1 ink refill in the whole year. So that is definitely something to look into if you're planning on printing a lot of things. I will link in the description below a link to the one that I have. You can take a look at that and look around. I bought mine at Costco, so you can really purchase them a lot of different places. So another thing you want to consider is, are you going to want to laminate things? I bought a laminator. Really, they don't need to be super fancy. I just bought a cheapo, like a brand name like Scott, but it was, I don't know, $12, $13, $14. It was not expensive. So I bought a laminator my first year with some laminating sheets, and I use that quite a bit, just even for chore charts or front pages of units, things like that. So I purchased that, purchased a bunch of pencils. I purchased some notebooks, some composition notebooks, some binders. I like to tear the curriculum out of my kids' books. If it's a good book to do that, we tear it out and we just put in a few weeks at a time into their binders so they can carry it with them as they go. So you just have to think, where your kid's going to be going with their work, what is that going to look like? So I purchased binders. We purchased some duotangs. I'm not sure if that's what you guys call it in the US, but that's what we called it in Canada. So duotang folders, and really some clipboards because I wanted my kids to do some car schooling. And we had a bunch of markers already. We had a bunch of colored pencils already. I have to buy some erasers. So you just need to think about your curriculum and what you purchased, and just think about what supplies you're going to need to implement that. I also bought quite a few art supplies at the beginning of the year because I knew I wanted to have some art in our homeschool. So I purchased some watercolors, some actual art paper, and things like that. So you just have to think about what you're going to want in your homeschool. So I'd say the next thing you need to think about is, where do you think you're going to be homeschooling? Now I say think where you think you're going to be homeschooling because I know a lot of people put in a lot of plans as far as where they think they're going to homeschool, and in the end they probably end up somewhere else in the house with their homeschooling. So for example, where we homeschool a lot, we homeschool in our living room, on my couch. We have a beanbag. One kid sits on the beanbag. I do have to strategically place my children so that we don't have people touching each other and tattling and arguing. So we all have places on the couch that we sit when we're doing our couch stuff. And then we do a lot at the kitchen table. And then this year, what I added was we had a room that was sort of a guest room, and we didn't really use it a whole lot, more of a files and guest room. So we turned that into our homeschool room, and really it just gives me a little more storage, and it gives us some separation. So when we're doing some independent work, I can work with the boys at the dining room table, and the girls can go in this separate room, and we have desks for them so that we don't have all the audio distractions that we used to have. So just some more space for our kids for when they're doing the independent work. I also have just a folding table that I had before for my work. I have that up in our living room where I have a computer station and just a place to put more stuff, my homeschooling stuff. So then once you know where you want to be homeschooling, you'll need to figure out where are you going to put your curriculum, how are you going to organize your supplies. So my kids each have one cubby in our living room where they put the books that they need for our group subjects and things that they're going to need to access when they're not in the homeschool room. So we have a cubby per child for that. Of course, I bought numerous bookshelves that year, and the books are overflowing. They're all over the place, and we do the literature-based homeschooling, so books just keep coming. I have this big shelf over here, and it's just like packed with books and books in front of books. And so I'm gonna need to do an organizing session as the new books come in, and I haven't gotten the old books out yet. It's becoming a bit of a disaster. But anyways, you're gonna have to think about where are you going to store your homeschooling supplies, because this is only our second year, and I can see how over time this is going to become a problem if I cannot figure out a storage solution or a way to get rid of the material after we're done. So then in my homeschool room, I have a closet that has art supplies, and then I bought some bins where I can store units of things that we're going to be doing and just start organizing the curriculum. So you need to decide where are you going to put the curriculum that you purchase. Some of you will be more minimal homeschoolers, and that is great. You won't need as much space, and you won't need to have a lot of places to put all the stuff. I am not a minimalist homeschooler. I love lots and lots of things and lots of curriculum, which gives me the opportunity to share it with you guys. But it does take up room in my house, and it does cause some challenges for organization. So think about where you're going to be homeschooling and where are you going to store the homeschooling things that you need in a way that's easy to access and easy to put away. Next, I would have you think about what you think your schedule might look like. Now, if you are not the type A personality and you're more of the type B personality, you might not think that that is important, and maybe it isn't for you and your family. And this also depends on your homeschooling style. If you are unschooling, you're probably not going to have to think about this as much, though I feel like even if you're an unschooler, you might want to have some sort of routine for your everyday just to know what's going to happen next. Most kids do like to have some sense of structure and kind of know what's going to happen next. So I would suggest for most of you, you probably want to think about what your ideal day would look like. Now, I am not saying you need to create a schedule at 10-minute increments. We'll do this from this time to this time, this from this time to this time, and things like that. I'm not saying you need to plan that out, but think about when you will do what and who you'll be teaching when. This is really important, especially when you have multiple kids. So an example of our schedule is my husband gets up with the kids, they start eating breakfast. I come down around 8:15. I like to have all my kids started by 9. Now this is later than our first year. Our first year I was trying to start by the actual school time that we had before. And the reason why I start that early is because I really want to get through as much as possible before noon or 12:30, because I don't want to be doing school all day. So I've changed it to 9. I have a teenager now. I have kids that just take a while to wake up. And so we're starting at 9, and that's our expectation. And then I had to think about, okay, what are we going to start with? Originally, we used to start with the morning basket, but I find that people aren't really ready to sit and focus on that, and maybe we don't want to be together as a group quite that early. So we're actually starting on independent work. So that means my early riser, early starter, she can just get going whenever she wants and has an extra amount of time to finish, often finishes a lot of her schoolwork just in that morning time. And then my teenager, she'll get on the computer for 15 minutes to do her math lesson, to listen to her math lesson, while I can get my boys started on their independent work because they still need help for things. So I spend that 15 minutes just kind of getting them started, getting anything out of the way that they're going to need help with. And then I can sit with my oldest daughter and do her math lesson with her. Then we come to the couch and we do our morning time, and then we take a break and the kids go play outside, or we just have a break. If it's indoor time, then we just have it indoors. And then we come back again for our group subjects, and we kind of have an order on what we do there. And after that, if we have a lesson the girls have to do on a video and watch it on TV, we do that. Or we just go back to our independent work and they get as far as they can before lunch or our afternoon activities. So is it like that every single day? No, not every day is exactly the same. Some days we have co-op, some days we have some classes somewhere else, but that is our general routine for our morning, and it's what works for us. Of course, you need to figure out what's going to work for you. So I'm going to say, come up with a schedule or routine, but don't have it set in stone. Adjust it as you go. You can try it out and see how it goes. Don't be afraid to change it if it's not working, or tweak it here or there, or add some time here or there. And really, if things don't fit into the allotted time, maybe you have too much. And that's what this gives me. If we cannot finish most of our stuff by lunch or by the time we need to go somewhere, it's telling me that I have planned too much. So after lunch, my girls do have a bit more work generally. They have some more independent work they can do. They can do silent reading and things like that. And sometimes we have to come back together at some point and talk about a subject or something else. But normally we're done by then and we can have our quiet time, which I have scheduled into our daily plan because I need time to do things like this. I need time to work on my business. I need time where kids aren't asking me questions nonstop, because it can be overwhelming being home with 4 kids all the time. So I need that time where they are quietly in their room working on something, or in the homeschool room working on work that they know they're not going to come out and ask me questions about. So I have that scheduled into my day to make sure that I can survive every day. Now, does that always happen? No. Normally today we would be on a nature walk, but it's raining out and my kids are getting over colds and we thought it was better to stay at home. So today's a little different, but when it's like that, we go back to our normal routine, which is quiet time after lunch. And they all know that, and so it's not something we have to talk about or discuss. If we're not on our nature walk, we know what's happening next in our schedule. So that's the benefit of a schedule or routine, just having a regular way that you do things. It just helps the day run smoothly. So the next thing you might want to do is think about the days that you are planning on doing school. First of all, what are your state's requirements? Is there a number of hours you're supposed to meet? Is there a number of days you're supposed to meet? Do you need to record it? Do you need to keep track? Do you need to take attendance? If so, then this is a very important thing to do. Now, I'm not saying if your state says you have to homeschool for 1,000 hours, that means you have to be sitting down for 1,000 hours and working on seat work that time. No, going out on nature walks, learning to cook, cleaning the house. All these things are part of your children's education. So I'm not saying you have to schedule it out so that you have these 5 or 6 hours every day of school and you have to record everything, and you need to do what the state requires, but do you have to actually keep track? Not all states require you to keep that detailed of information. And if you yourself just know that you are covering it, then that is often good enough. Now, in my state, we have to do 180 days of homeschool. And so I do schedule out my year in 36 weeks of 5 days a week. Our 5th day is a very light day. We actually hang out with our friends and do nature study, or just hang out and talk and really maybe do an art project or something like that on our Fridays. But I count that as school. The kids are learning. It's time for them to learn their social skills and to be with others and learn how to share and whatever else we might do that day. And then they might be finishing up some of the schoolwork that they didn't get to during the rest of the week. So I'll schedule out 36 weeks, and I do the 6 week on, 1 week off, 6 week on, 1 week off, roughly kind of a year-round school. But I don't just do those 36 weeks. I also do 4 weeks in the summer where we're doing a very light load. Now, we are doing that even though that's not required, because my kids really thrive on routine. And when they have nothing to do, then they just get a bit crazy and chaotic. So we just keep, even in the summer, if we're not on vacation, we're not at someone else's house, we're not traveling and doing the fun things we do in the summer, we keep a very basic summer schedule where they have a small checklist of things, mostly math and language arts related, that they are required to do before they get to go do tablets or whatever else. So that is how we structure our school year. So you need to think about how you want to structure your school year. So in that planning series that I'm going to be directing you to after this, I will be talking more in depth on how I plan out my school year. So probably more videos in July and August showing how I plan everything and then how we get started with the school year. So those videos are coming. So that's a series that you'll want to be watching and paying attention for. So that is the next thing I recommend. So the 5th thing that I would say that you probably need to be doing is continuing your own education about homeschooling, about educating, about children. Now, if you are deciding to homeschool your children, this is like adding a new job, a new profession to your life. So you need to be learning and growing in your new profession. Take this seriously. I mean, I know you are, because you're watching these videos and you are educating yourself right now. So not just to help yourself to feel more prepared, but to learn and grow. You can be reading homeschooling books. You can be watching more videos like this. You can be collaborating with other homeschoolers. You can be asking questions. You can be learning about different educational philosophies. So just continue your education so that as your children grow, your confidence in teaching them and being able to find solutions for the many problems that you will encounter will also grow. So be growing yourself, be educating yourself. So the 6th thing I suggest that you do is find a community. Find people who are also on this homeschooling journey. Find people who are supportive of your homeschooling journey. You might be surrounded by people who don't think that you should do this, who don't think this is a good idea, who take every chance they can get to cut you down and say, this is not going to work, this is not a good idea, this is not what you should be doing for your children. But you know that it is what you should be doing for your children because you are here and you're trying to figure it out. So surround yourself with people who can lift you up and encourage you on this journey. So there are many different ways to do that. You can find Facebook groups that are all over the country, all over the world. You can find more local Facebook groups and try to go to meetups. Often there are places that have park days, so you can go and meet other homeschooling parents at these park days. Check your church. Are there other homeschoolers in your church? Do they want to get together once a week or once a month or something like that, just to have time to have your kids be together and you be able to have time talking to another homeschool mom? Just find a community, join a co-op, just look around. Don't try to do this alone. You need people that you can talk to when you're having those hard days. You need people who you can bounce ideas off of and ask questions and get some feedback from people who have been doing this either alongside you or for longer than you have. So please do go find some people who will be able to support you on this journey. Now, I do have a Facebook group. It is very, very small, but it is a homeschooling Facebook group, and there are some great moms in there. And if you would like to join that, I will link below the link to the Facebook group. I would love to see more people in there. And this is a great place to come for encouragement and ask questions and get some more answers than just myself. There are some parents in there who have been homeschooling so much longer than I have. So if you do not have a community or you would like to add another community, please join us down in the Facebook group in the link below. I would love to see you there. So the seventh thing I'm going to tell you, when you're planning on starting your homeschool, do not do your whole schedule first day. Do not go in there and say, here's my routine, here's my schedule. We're going to stick to the schedule. We're going to do every subject. We're going to, don't do that. Now, this is one of, I think, the most important pieces of advice that my homeschooling friend who's been homeschooling longer than me gave to me when I first started. I really just wanted to go in there and start the day and do it all. I mean, not a full lesson or anything, but just like go through the whole day, touching on every subject. My friend strongly suggested that I did not try that and that I just start with a tiny bit on the first day and maybe add a little bit more and even take a week to 2 weeks or even longer to add the things in slowly and get acclimated. Now, like I said, as a teacher before, we would usually have a half day maybe on the first day. And of course, we wouldn't expect to get a whole lesson done. But the difference is you are homeschooling your kids for the first time. This is not like starting school. This is not going back to public school where they've been in the public school and they know kind of the routines and they know kind of how things work. No, you're in a totally different environment. This is not going to be the same. You are teaching your own children, and you know that there's a bit more emotions involved in teaching your own children. And that makes teaching your own children both wonderful and also so hard. So take it easy at the beginning. Take it easy. When we start, even now, because we have been homeschooling, and I will say, first year versus second year, huge difference in the start. And it's exactly for this reason, because we had already been homeschooling the first year. So the second year, we had amazing first 6 weeks of school. I think we had a great 6 weeks of school, and then things got a bit rocky. But when you are first starting, this is new. This is new for you. This is new for your kids. You guys don't know what's happening yet, okay? So take it slow. Maybe take the first 1 or 2 things on your schedule and do those things and then be done. Like show them the stuff and have a fun first day and maybe do a little bit of your morning basket, or if that's what you're doing, or maybe do a little bit of language arts or do a little bit of the fun stuff. I don't know. Plan it out so that you are adding very slowly throughout 1 to 2 weeks, and even don't feel like you need to have everything going by the time you're done those 2 weeks. If you need to come back and add something later in a month, do that. Also, maybe you did purchase too much curriculum. I did find that there were probably several things every year, not usually major things, but small things that I just was not able to implement. I wasn't able to put it in my schedule without stressing my kids out, without stressing myself out. And all throughout the year, I am adjusting and tweaking and taking away and adding as we go throughout the year. So don't feel like you need to figure it all out the very beginning and have everything going right away. Take your time, build slowly, do what works for your family. As long as you're moving forward and progressing, you're doing great. So I'm saying even the second year, you don't want to just jump in and get started. You can go probably a little faster because you have some routines and schedules already set, but it's still a new year and you probably took a bit of a break before you got started. The kids are excited about the new year, hopefully. And so it just takes some time to build up to full momentum, and it ebbs and it flows. There are times when you're going to be able to get so much done, and then there's times where you just need to do the very basics and just get through that season or that time period. So those are my tips for getting started with homeschooling. I hope that these tips were helpful for you and get you started on the right foot with homeschooling. Please do tell me if you have any questions. I would love to answer any questions. Just leave them in the comments below. Please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't, if you like videos like this. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so that you will see any new videos that get put up. In the end card after my video, I will link the playlist for the beginning of the series as well as the playlist for my planning series so that you can get caught up on how far I've gotten with the planning series. Thanks for coming today, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.